in January, there was a scramble over who's going to get what jobs in the new administration. And at one point, there was someone who was being discussed for a job in the intel world, and a member of the SSCI, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, Senate Intel Committee, went to the people making the decision and said, you cannot hire this person because this person will be certain to push for the release of the JFK files. So this is in 2025, less than 2 months ago, and you have a sitting member of the United States Senate whose main goal is to keep those files secret. And then you have to ask yourself, what is that?
Yeah.
Exactly. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Were they even alive?
Now, of course, no one was alive. It was 62 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
And by the way, the institution, no one can even tell you who the CIA director was. And do you remember the name of the CIA director? John McCone, I think, 1963. But that person is like completely lost to history except a specialist.
Yeah,
and the CIA has already been through 50 years ago, the Church Committee hearings, 1975, where we sort of know they're assassinating people, dosing people with acid, all this stuff. It's like the CIA has already been discredited. So if you're telling me that 6 weeks ago, a member of the United States Senate was trying to keep someone out of a job in order to keep these files secret, that is to protect the CIA, I don't believe that for a second.
So what do you think it is?
I don't know. But this is, there's no one at the CIA who is involved.
Then.
Actually, who's involved in the Kennedy assassination. There's no one in America who's involved in the Kennedy assassination.
So here's what I know. First of all, I don't believe that the CIA has been completely discredited. I believe in the institutions. They have to be checked. The media used to be in the business of checking the institutions. Now we're in the business of defending them tacitly because we have a president that attacks them all the time. But so Mike Pompeo gets in there. He's in charge of the CIA. Trump says, I'm releasing the files.
Right.
Okay. Somebody says something to Mike Pompeo that he then goes to the president of the United States and says, you can't release these things. And Trump acknowledges it. Now, do I believe that Trump did it under threat? No. I think that Trump just decided that whatever he was being told made sense.
But it's, and I'm not even speaking of Trump or Pompeo, who's a very sinister person. And you're absolutely right. Pompeo was the driver behind that. But who was driving Pompeo? It doesn't actually make sense, the story. It doesn't make sense. And by the way, we have the file numbers of most of the files that have not been disclosed. So it's like Trump issues an executive order on January 23rd saying you're going to release this stuff. They kind of can't not release it. And yet now it's the first week of March and they haven't released it. So pressure is currently being applied on the administration not to release those files.
It seems that way.
By whom?
I don't know.
Some mid-level analyst at CIA who just doesn't want to discredit the institution he works for? I don't think so. What is that?
I don't know. I don't believe it's the Rockefellers, the Pope, and whatever.
I'm not even.
I don't believe that
I'm not
either.
even guessing. All I'm saying is we can say with certainty that there is a force acting on these people, a very serious force, to the point where they're embarrassing themselves because they promised they'd release this and they haven't.
Look, I don't disagree with.
So what the hell is that?
I don't know, but it's not just that, right? Now we get this weird story about the Epstein files. Who even cares? You know what I mean? Who? I want it released. I believe in transparency. I think it's the route to trust. And it's not just because I'm in the media. It's just common sense. But A.G. Bondi, I don't have any reason to be anti-A.G. Bondi. And she says she's going to release the files. And I don't even care that they released them to their pod people. I thought that was stupid, but that's fine. They want to do it, they do it. They're playing to preference. Okay. Now, then there's a story about, the New York FBI, they hid all the files. And then we're going to have to get them. We're going to fire this guy who's supposedly, by most accounts, is a pretty solid guy that they had quit. Well, where are the files? Where are they? And because I thought Trump was the antidote to this. And to me, the heartbreak has already come and gone. UFOs, to me, is the best example of what you're picking.
Can we just back up? And I totally agree. I just want to just linger for 1 second on the Epstein things. So what is that? Once again, you clearly have a force that's applying measurable pressure on the people who should have the power. The elected president of the United States should have the power under our system. That's called democracy. And his appointees have derivative power from him. But they appear to be powerless in the face of some other source of power. And the question is, what is that source?
I don't know. And where's your boy Kash Patel? He went in there to supposedly bust all this up.
I can't answer that.
He put out this weird tweet, that was very general. Things are going to change and we're going to do this and da-da. After we learned that someone under his control now, right, because he's the head of the FBI, in that office that's under him, Why wasn't he there? Why didn't he go there and say, give me the files? Give them to me.
Weren't you just saying the deep state's not real?
I don't know. I don't believe in the deep state as a boogeyman.
What's going on?
But look, they're his guys. I'm just saying, why didn't he go there and say, give me the files?
So let's just use logic. I can't answer that question. I think it's a great question. But let's just use logic for 1 second. Clearly, if you watch this, in my case, for the same as you, 35 years, watching this stuff carefully, and somebody, gets into office, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing, and then like 5 days later, they're like, well, actually, someone has called that person to say, there's something you didn't know. Here are the consequences of doing that. Someone has applied very serious pressure on this person. Pressure so serious that person is willing to humiliate himself.
So wait a minute. Here's the part I don't understand.
So who's that person exerting the pressure?
But you are uniquely qualified to get this answer, because one of us can call the president of the United States right now and ask him. And the other one is me. So why don't you know?
That's a great question.
It's the only kind I ask.
So what I brought to it was the knowledge that a member of the Senate Intel Committee, I'm not guessing, called over and said, you cannot appoint this person.
So why don't you expose that person, first of all, so we can start chasing after him?
Tom Cotton of Arkansas did that.
Tom Cotton?
Yes, correct.
And did you ask him?
I haven't. No, I haven't asked him.
What the hell's going on with you?
I'd like to. And
kind of makes people suspicious of you, by the way. Because if you know that Tom Cotton said you can't pick this person
that
because
is correct,
and then you didn't go to him and find out why.
Well, I need to sit down with him. I'm not sure that he'll do an interview with me. When you sleep better, you live better, you feel better, and you live longer. Sleep is really important, but there's a lot acting against us who are trying to get a good sleep, starting with screen time. It scrambles your brain, makes it hard to sleep. So we're thinking a lot about sleep, not getting as much as we should. So a new partner we want to tell you about can help you. It's called Beam's Dream Powder, and it's made with a blend of all natural ingredients. It's not made by Pfizer. It's science-backed, it's American-built and run, and best of all, it legitimately tastes good. It can help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling amazing. Everybody in the staff loves it. No more tossing and turning during the night. No more groggy wake-ups, desperate for the coffee. We're not the only ones who use it. So many people have used Beam that has improved over 17.5 million nights of sleep. They're keeping track, helping Americans from all over the country wake up feeling good and ready to go. We're getting a huge discount, 47% off for this show. Try their best-selling Dream Power. Get 47% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com, shopbeam.com/Tucker. Use the code Tucker at checkout and get a massive discount. We can't recommend this enough. Everyone here loves it. We think you will also. It's an American company, by the way. Awesome. I'm waiting.
You are like the spirit animal of that administration.
No, but it's a fair question. It's a totally fair question. And the answer is, I hadn't thought to do that. And there's a lot going on, and I've been distracted, and I've kind of been...
Now I think you're part of the deep state. And just like that...
think that. I probably wouldn't be saying any of this if I was part of the deep state.
Unless that's what they would do, is make me think that it exists, but you're not sure because it's actually you.
One of the worst things that ever happened to me, ever, is last year when I was interviewing Putin. It was such a long interview, and it was being translated, and I couldn't always hear the translation very well. And apparently in it, he says... You applied to work at CIA, which I did. I'm not hiding that. I didn't get in. And your father worked for the Intel world and all that. I didn't hear him say that. I did not hear him say that. And I have been living with that ever since. I have nothing to do with any of that, for whatever it's worth. But the number of people have texted me, but like, oh, you're working for the CIA. It's like, no, actually, nobody believes more strongly in radical reform at CIA than I do, with, I would say, some knowledge of the subject. Look, I mean, people can think I work for the deep state. I don't.
I don't think there is a deep state.
Here's all I'm saying. Someone is applying massive pressure to elected officials and has for a very long time, and I would like to know who that is.
Ask Mike Pompeo why he told...
Oh, I have. And when I got into it with Mike Pompeo... No, I mean, I've talked about this before. I don't want to be boring, but I tell you to ask Dan Crenshaw, but he's not going to take your call. No, he's not.
Sure.
He's not going to call
calling him a liberal.
But you wonder... Dan Crenshaw is emotionally out of control, and I feel for. Honestly, I've not.
Well, stop provoking him then.
I didn't even provoke him. I just pointed out.
You provoked him. I saw it on stage.
His state was just invaded by Mexico, and he's worried about Ukraine. It's like, what? Wake up, son. Here are your duties. Let me put them in order. To your family, to your community, to your voters, to your state, to your nation, and maybe Ukraine down there at the bottom. But anyway, that's all I was saying. Here's my point.
Please.
I am really concerned, not just because, I am curious and I want to get to the bottom of mysteries, which is true, but I'm really concerned that the failure to disclose big things like details about the murder of a president in a democratic country, republic, that will convince people that our system itself is fake. And it's kind of hard to argue that it's real.
I totally agree.
You can't even know who killed the president.
Transparency is trust.
62 years later, Mike Pompeo was working to keep American citizens from knowing who murdered their president? Who are you working for, Mike Pompeo?
And we just had an election.
What is that? And by the way, I just want to say one more time, you cannot convince me, I'm not some world expert in the CIA, but I've certainly watched it closely over the years. It's not the CIA. The CIA. CIA is like a huge federal agency with all kinds of different components and warring tribes within. And like, there's no CIA. Bill Burns is not like calling Trump
agree.
and being like, don't release the files.
I agree.
Discredit CIA.
But look, the president knows. We just had an election where he was hammering on these things. And even with UAPs or UFOs, whatever terminology you want, we couldn't get more information. These things are all over the place. Sure, some are helicopters, some are fixed wing. Okay, not all of them. And they don't know? Of course they know. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars on the programs. And then we get all our hopes up, right? The media loves mocking News Nation about this because they think that, Cuomo thinks they're little green men in the basement of some building. No, I don't. It's about knowing that we spend hundreds of millions of dollars and use special operators to do things that you won't tell us about. And at a minimum, you should say, well, here's why we won't tell you.
So what are they?
That's exactly right.
Well, but what are they, do you think?
I don't know what the fuck they are. The point is that they know and they won't tell us things. Well, I think it is anathema to democracy.
Of course I agree with everything you're saying except one specific point, which is I'm not sure they know.
They have programmed. They certainly know more than we do. Put it that way.
They do. They may know that they don't really know, which is the scariest thing of all. And I've certainly called a lot on this topic. I've stopped talking about it in public. I've tried to stop thinking about it because it's just one of those things that drives you crazy. But my strong impression is that they don't really know, that there isn't a consensus on this, and that they're not, from Russia or China. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.